audio. So there's people already in, so you want to admit them.
What happened?
No, go ahead and see your waiting room. So I'm in and Bonnie, so admit them. There's Bonnie.
Can they see me?
There's Lisa. Yes.
Oh, mashallah.
So now you'll be able to see everybody that's there.
Mashallah. Now where's my presentation?
You'll have to share your screen.
But should I bring it up?
Yes.
Oh, better not.
Okay, yeah, share.
No, can I share where?
Right, so click, that's the screen, share.
Right.
And then share. Now, you want to presentation, or you want to just leave it?
Can I move these people over here?
You can move them anywhere you want.
Oh, lovely.
Now, you'll have to probably admit everybody in. We can change it where everybody can go in.
Where is the, well, I admit them. They'll pop up.
I'm not sure. Where's your Zoom? Right here. See, I'm like your Zoom thing. It's right here. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you? Okay, here you go.
I am good, alhamdulillah. So nice to be able to come to the class.
And it's so wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. This is very exciting.
Okay, so why is it saying chat? Who's chatting?
So
So Bonnie's just saying so I'm down. Okay, so you'll see the chat there if anyone's chatting. I was like, manage participants. Let's see. Okay, you go. So Doug's in.
Okay.
So we'll just leave that up here.
Can they hear me now?
Yes, everybody can hear.
All right.
So Doug's in. We'll give everybody a few more minutes. I can't believe people are late to an online meeting. So see, Imam says she'll be able to tell that Bonnie is muted. Lisa's muted. No one's doing video right now. Doug's.
Okay, does that mean, okay.
You can also move this over here so that you can keep up with chat if anyone's chatting. And then when someone is needed to come, you can just admit them.
We'll sit over there. Oh no, because that'll mess up the.
No,
You'll get feedback if your phone is on.
No, my phone's in the other room.
Okay.
And I'm muted, so it doesn't. There's no feedback. So everybody, can you guys can so pipe in and see if you can see Imam Sax's camera clearly? Okay.
Thank Bonnie. Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
Yeah,
So is this automatically recording? Or remember if we said automatically record?
Should we look? We are just wanting to make sure that we're automatically recording. So just bear with me a second. This is my first time doing this.
No, that's not where you want to go.
Okay.
Minimize it.
What up here? Mute? No.
No, it's gonna. No.
Okay.
See, because your video is on and then your audio is on, and actually it is recording. Isn't
okay,
that you're the host? Can you just toggle it? No.
Just I'll let you.
Oh,
Okay.
I believe we said it automatically record. Not mistaken.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Yes, indeed. So Doug says he can't hear me soon. Okay, if you can't hear, that's on your end, apparently. Can everybody else hear me? Okay. Thank you, Bonnie, for that message to everyone. Okay. Monica, let me in. Megan, Mohsin, Monica. Okay, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so what is it? They can't hear?
Can you hear all, Doug?
Yes, we can hear you now, but
Alhamdulillah. Okay, alhamdulillah.
there's quite an echo though.
It's quite echo. That's what I was afraid of. Is there an echo now?
Yes, there was.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Does that improve it?
Assalamualaikum, this is Mika. Is everybody having the same echo or is it just us?
I don't have echo.
Is that better, folks?
Yeah, that sounds a little better.
Does that sound better? Okay. I'm not sure if I am logged into two, if I can fix that. Is everybody's quality good now? Okay. Okay, alhamdulillah, salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would ask all of you to make dua. This is my first time doing this, and I consider myself technically challenged, but I'm not going to make a judgment about that. I will share with you that we just came from Coco, where I also did a stream for a group there, a group that celebrates diversity about faith. Alhamdulillah. It was really a blessing to be there this morning. And so we ask you to make dua that can continue to do dawah in this atmosphere that we're in. Alhamdulillah. And God is still blessing, and we're still getting requests for Qur'ans even in the midst of COVID-19. So, in Alhamdulillah Ta'ala, nahmahu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluhu. Indeed, all the praise is due to Allah. We praise Allah. We seek refuge with Allah from evil and our soul and from our sin and deeds. Those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one will misguide them. Those who are not guided by Allah, there's no guide for them. I bear witness that there is no God, there is no deity except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and messenger. O you who believe, fear Allah by doing what Allah has ordered you to do, and by avoiding that which he has prohibited. Fear Allah is alone should be feared, and die not except as Muslims. Bad. So today, it is exciting. Literally, we just walked into the office just 30 minutes ago. The month of Sha'baan is upon us. It's an exciting month, and I pray that your hearts will be open to receive all the blessings that are in store for you. It's a very special month. It is referred to as the neglected or forgotten month. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open our hearts and to bring healing to us in a peaceful state, inshallah. So Sha'baan, this neglected month, is the 8th month of the Islamic calendar. It is a prelude to the blessed month of Ramadan. And it is a month when the Arabs used to disperse to Sha'baan in search of water. So people would go and carve out their wells to prepare their water supplies for the month of Ramadan. Because as you know, historically, that even before the Messenger of Allah, Ramadan was considered a sacred month. I'm just admitting another person, so inshallah they're here. It is Sha'baan because it emerges between Rajab, which, as you remember, is a sacred month, and the very blessed month of Ramadan. And we'll see that that has some significance spiritually. So all of the Islamic months, by the way, their names come from one of two sources, either weather or war, and sometimes both. So the first Ramadan came with scorched heat, and it referred to the thirst of the people. The month before it, vigilantly was safeguarded, as I said before, their water supply. Because Sha'baan comes after the month of Rajab, which is the fourth of the sacred months, and if you remember that in the sacred months there's no fighting, and in the early days there was often, most of the time, there was tribal warfare. So in that month of Rajab, all of the tribes, all of the people laid down their weapons. It was like ceasefire time. And so people would rush in the month of Sha'baan to pick up their weapons, attack or descend on each other. And so the month of Sha'baan in the days of Jahiliyyah in that time sort of became to be known as sort of a month of war, because the people said, okay, we can't fight in Rajab, now we're going to go after each other. And you have to understand historically that there was no law enforcement at that time. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had migrated to create in this Islamic state a place, a city with a state of peace. Sha'baan in the Arabic language refers to anything that is placed between two significant things. So by virtue of the significance of the two things that it is placed between the sacred month of Rajab and Ramadan, people often lose sight of Sha'ban's importance. And interestingly enough, Sha'ban is the month historically that Ramadan was actually legislated. In the second year after Hijrah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for the people and clear proofs of guidance and criterion. And I'm just admitting two people in, so alhamdulillah. There we go. Also, month of Ramadan is the month of all divine revelations. So the Injil, the Torah, all of the divine books were brought to mankind, to the lower heavens, and revealed to various prophets in the month of Ramadan. So let me just admit one more person here. Alhamdulillah. Also, historically, Sha'ban is the month in which Qibla was from Jerusalem to Mecca. And this, of course, had a very important and significance to the psyche of the Muslims. They had just migrated, and many of them had lost everything they had to being forced out of Mecca by the Quraysh. So they were longing for their homeland. And so there's a reference in the Holy Quran, which we'll see in the next slide here, from the Holy Quran, Surah 2, verses 143 and verse 144. We decreed your former Qibla only in order that we might know the Prophet's true adherents and those who were to own him. It was indeed our test, but not for those whom Allah guided. Many a time we have seen you turn face towards heaven. We will make you turn towards a Qibla that will please you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here, they saw the pain of the people looking back to their homeland. And then he promises them that he's going to turn them toward their home city. MashaAllah. And in a hadith narrated by Imam al-Bukhari, Sha'baan is a month between Rajab and Ramadan, much neglected by people. In it, the actions of all servants are raised to the Lord of the worlds, and by the way, we'll talk about the extensively later on in the lecture. I love that my actions are not presented except that I am fasting. And so a lot of the early predecessors of Islam would always pray that they would die upon good deeds, and that deed they wanted to have most would be that they would be fasting. People were preoccupied with planning for iftars and tarawih, Ramadan, and Eid. And so we see this every year, that after the month of Rajab, the people are really focusing on who's going to do the iftars, what's going to happen. And so they sort of forget about this month. And I guess that COVID-19 will make it more forgotten than any other Sha'baan historically, in light of the fact that people are thinking about survival right now. So let's make sure that we don't let this be the neglected, forgotten month. I'm just admitting 2 more people in. Alhamdulillah. So make this quarantine, and I encourage you to do social distancing. I encourage you to be wise, to have hikmah, and to use this quarantine as a time for worship. I beseech you, I implore you, I lovingly beg you, without getting too redundant, that you use this time for worship. And it's actually, for me, I must share, been a very precious time, because I have more time to make dhikr, more time to study, more time to read the Quran. And alhamdulillah, I pray and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that your hearts will be moved to do the same. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, said that the most beloved of months in which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved to fast more than any time else was Sha'baan. Indeed, he used to join it to Ramadan. So if we look at this beautiful hadith here, we see that the Messenger of Allah made a connection with Sha'baan to the month of Ramadan. And as you'll remember, as we are preparing, that the month of Rajab is the month for tilling the soil. The month of Sha'baan is the month of irrigation. And so we irrigate the seeds that we planted in the month of Rajab, and then inshallah, in the month of Ramadan, Allah will give us a beautiful harvest. So the Messenger of Allah made a connection between these 2 months, and we want to make sure we emulate the Messenger of Allah and that we do the same thing. So to know what we should do in this month, so beloved, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we look at a question the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked to raise. Usama ibn Zayd said, I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is it? Why is it that you fast more in Sha'baan than you fast in any other month? The Prophet ﷺ replied that it is a month between Rajab and Ramadan, which is neglected by many people. And it is the month in which people's deeds are raised to the Lord of the universe. So I wish that my deeds be raised at a time when I am in a state of fasting. So even the Messenger of Allah wanted his good deeds to be raised at a time when he was fasting. I'm just admitting Sean, so welcome. The scholars say he was amazed at the attention and importance the Prophet ﷺ gave to Sha'baan. Though he did not preach about its virtues or command his companions to give it the same importance as he. And what's very beautiful about this hadith is recognizing that Zayd was from the household of the Prophet ﷺ. He was an eyewitness to the Prophet ﷺ's continual fasting in the month of Sha'baan. And this will actually make sense even more as we continue throughout presentation. It's a powerful hadith and gives us two pearls, two gems dating to the month of Sha'baan. The most forgotten Sha'baan of all times might be COVID-19 Sha'baan, because it is completely being neglected as we think about the trials of the virus itself and what Ramadan is going to look like in these times. So many people are likely to have Tarawih. The masajids are getting lots of calls. What's going to happen? So instead of thinking about what's going to happen, I encourage you to stay in the moment and to be grateful to Allah, because more than likely everybody that's on this class today, as you are sitting or lying down or whatever you're doing as you're listening to me, you have everything you need. You lack nothing. Allah has blessed you abundantly. Even if there's someone on the class that might have lost their job, we want you to know that we have zakat money. If you need money, please let us know. If you need anything, please let us know. We want you to know that we are here as the family, the Islamic family, and that if somebody in our family needs help, we want to know about that. So what is the significance of a month that people are heedless of? Scholars mention that the times to compete for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure. I'm admitting another person. Okay. Scholars mention that the times to compete for Allah's pleasure the most are the times in which Allah is most forgotten. To really stand out, people of ihsan, people of excellence, seek, compete, or lie for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure during times when most people are neglectful of Allah and Allah's rights upon them. So we as believers that want to elevate ourselves should always be looking for opportunities where people are not remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we want to rise in those moments to be of those people committed to ihsan, and of those people that will say, I will not forget my Lord, because we know that Allah said, if you forget me, I will forget you. So we never want it to be that we forget Allah. So there are times when people are engaged in everything but ibadah. They're engaged in entertainment. They're watching Netflix, Hulu, and whatever the other mediums are. Probably you guys know better than me. They're shopping, online shopping, or they're sleeping. When everyone else is heedless and negligent, we call it ghafla. And ghafla for my new Muslims is the sin of forgetting Allah and one's divine origins. It is sin of slothfulness, spiritual slothfulness. Believers that are committed to ihsan, spiritual excellence and growth, compete for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure at that time. And that is why tahajjud or I.S.L.A.M, the night prayer, is special. Think about it. Most people are sleeping, and you are standing and presenting yourself in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in private. So worship in these times in particular to show that you really want the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So particularly now is one of the best times in the life of people to do Salatul Tahajjud, I.S.L.A. If you're laid off your job right now or searching for a job, take a nap in the afternoon and get up and pray at night and seek to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go and look for the best parts of the year, month, day, and night to compete for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and grace. And the Prophet ﷺ said to be moderate, to have a class, to be sincere. I'm just admitting another person, and strive for perfection, but be gradual in our pursuit of Allah. And he said to focus on remembering Allah in the morning between Fajr, sunrise, and in the afternoon between Asr and Maghrib, and then a small part of the last third of the night. So the Prophet ﷺ tells us the times that have a maximum return on our worship investments. So when you get up in the morning, you pray your Fajr. If you're not having to go to work, sit there until sunrise and praise Allah, glorify Allah, read Quran, make dhikr. Don't go back to bed and sleep the whole day away. Make this a time that you can really get close to Allah. Make it the most wonderful prelude to the month of Ramadan that you've ever had in your whole life. The scholars mentioned at the very beginning of the day, from Fajr to sunrise, is it when most people are not doing anything. We distinguish ourselves by remembering Allah between Fajr, sunrise, and between Asr and Maghrib. And if you think about it, most people are exhausted from the day. They think they have nothing to do, and they kick back. In some countries, they even take a siesta. Instead of taking a siesta, sit somewhere and pull your Quran out and read it. Make dhikr, do your tasbih, and focus on your Lord.
There's an issue with your echo.
I'm sorry, getting some feedback back here.
Can we try it without your headset? Because they're getting an audio feedback.
Okay.
Can we turn that off though?
I think so.
Completely
It
off?
wasn't even on.
Is that what it was?
I don't know. It wasn't on.
Try it again because they're hearing an echo.
I'm sorry, folks.
Maybe it'll get over now.
I don't. Okay.
Can you take an audio check?
Let's see if this is better, folks. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to love, particularly to give life to the time between the two Ishas. So you may say, what are you talking about? They say this is an hour that most people are heedless of. So now I'll tell you about the two Ishas.
It's worse. So take it off because it's worse.
One of the names for Maghrib was the minor Isha. They would call them the two Ishas, the Maghrib, the Isha prayer. The companions would love to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala between Maghrib and Isha because most people were not doing so at that time, and they wanted to give life to the time. So if there are two of you in the house and one's perhaps cooking because maybe you'll be fasting, the other can make dhikr, and perhaps even while you're cooking, if you can remember to make dhikr, the food will even taste better, inshallah. And this is also the place, the case when it comes to places. Places in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is least remembered. Remember, Allah is most rewarded, and that is why we are enjoined to make a supplication upon entering Suq, the marketplace. And you can find this supplication. I have it here on the slides, but you can also find it in Fortress of the Muslim. We know that the marketplace is a place our nafs and our desires are highly stimulated. We go into the marketplace typically thinking about what ego wants, what I want, what the nafs want. We don't go in there thinking about what Allah wants. So learn this supplication, take a screenshot of the next slide, and when you go to the marketplace, walk around with your dhikr beads. If you can't remember to do it on your fingers, walk around with your dhikr beads. And the supplication is this, and this is from an authentic hadith. Whoever says, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, alone without partners. To Allah belongs all sovereignty and praise. Allah gives life and causes death, and Allah is living and does not die. In Allah's hand is all good, and Allah is omnipotent over all things. You say this to I listen, folks, listen up. Allah will wipe a million bad deeds from your record and grant you a million hasanat, good deeds, and will elevate you a million degrees, stations of virtue. And in another hadith, it says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build for you a house of paradise. So imagine that by making this dua and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the times when other people not, that this would be your return, your investment. May Allah make it to be among the people that do that. Insha'Allah, Rabbil Alameen. I thank you for your patience with me getting used to this forum. And I look forward to emails from all of you with feedback on how I can improve. Why does one get such ajr, good deeds for remembering Allah in that way upon entering the marketplace? And again, it's all about when we enter into the marketplace, we are thinking about our desires, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's. There are times and places where Allah is not mentioned as much, and that's where we want to say, I am going to be that one who rises to the occasion to remember my Lord and take advantage of this forgotten time and place to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am amongst the few that are competing and vying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure when most people are actually neglectful. Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, speaking of these gems, says that the worship that is done when people are generally in ghafla, heedless, should be done as secretly and privately as possible. We don't talk about these deeds. The deeds of excellence, the deeds of ihsan, beautification, and perfection should be done with excellence. And part of that excellence is not to talk about them to anyone. Now, there is an exception, and that is if teacher is encouraging your group to fast, then you can organize fasting together. But in general, whenever you are doing these deeds, we don't run around and talk about it. We're not doing it for our ego. We're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us for that. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu said, ihsan is to worship Allah as though you see Allah. And if you cannot see Allah, then indeed Allah sees you. And this is from the Hadith of Jibreel. But ihsan, voluntary deeds, is to hide them. When fasting a voluntary fast, don't make it a point to let people know you're fasting. If you're offered food when you're fasting a voluntary fast, politely decline and don't say it's because you're fasting. Now, if people keep insisting, you can say to them, you know, I'm fasting, but do your very best to keep it and act is for Allah and reserved for Allah, and doing that is part of ihsan. Hussein ibn Abdurrahman reported, I was sitting with Sayyid ibn Jubayr when he said, who among saw the shooting star that fell last night? I said, I saw it. He realized when he said it, people might have assumed he was praying the night prayer. Added, at the time I was performing the night prayer, but I was stung by a scorpion, and then that is the reason why I was awake and had a glimpse of the shooting star. So this is the degree to which the righteous predecessors wanted to keep their acts of worship between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They did not want to go around bragging about their worship. Dawood ibn Abi Hind fasted 40 years without his family knowing. In the morning, his wife would make his breakfast, and he would take it with him, take it out in the street, feed those poor people. He would come back and he would take his lunch, and he would take it and feed the poor people. Ayub al-Sakhtiyani used to pray all night and hide it. And in the morning, he would raise his voice as if he had just gotten up. So the very pious predecessors and scholars that we read about, they did not let their family even know. And I remember hearing a scholar speaking one time, who grew up, went away to college, and came home and couldn't sleep. He was going to get up and study, and he found his father. Praying so that Allah will touch. So make us, Allah, from among those people whose private lives are filled with acts of sin. This is part of those deeds in the fasting of Sha'baan. Don't tell the world that you're fasting. Make it a means of connecting to Allah in a special way, exclusively between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the scholars said, if you wake up fasting, wear perfume and look fresh to ward off any thoughts of others that you might be fasting. One scholar I read once said, don't even let people see it in your posture. So if it's like in the afternoon, you're having the pangs of hunger, perhaps you're perspiring because your blood sugar is low and your body temperature is changing, and you're wiping the sweat off your forehead, and you're like, just take it in and ask Allah to make this worship between the two of you, inshallah. One of the gems is that all of the ahadith that are narrated about the Prophet ﷺ fasting in Sha'baan is that they are by the people of his household, wives, children, or grandchildren. One of the hadiths earlier was by his adopted son. The Prophet ﷺ was not announcing this to the people in a way that would command them to do it, but everything of the Sunnah is meant to be conveyed and obeyed. Find narrations of the Sahaba, the companions, reporting how serious they took the fasting of Sha'baan. Sulaiman ibn Kuhayl used to say the month of Sha'baan is the month of reciters of the Quran. Sha'baan is the time when the Hafiz prepare themselves for the recitations in the month of Ramadan. The early believers welcomed the month of Sha'baan, and they immediately allotted a portion of it to the recitation of the Quran. And I would say to you that if it has it in your practice to try to read 1/30 of the Quran, one juz of the Quran every day in Ramadan, whatever your practice that you're planning to do this year, if you're planning to read, I'm just going to throw out a number 200 verses next month in Ramadan, and I would encourage you to start reading 50 verses in the month of Sha'baan. Try to make a realistic goal that you connect to the Kalam of Allah, the speech of Allah, so that when you get to the month of Ramadan, your heart will be wide open to receive the harvest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for you. One scholar said, fasting in Sha'baan takes away the hardship of fasting and leaves only the sweetness of it for the time of Ramadan. Without this, your first days of Ramadan might not be with ihsan. It breaks my heart that often I have people tell me, oh, I dread Ramadan because my spouse is so temperamental and so irritable. And perhaps if we begin to fast now and we prepare our heart, that when you get to Ramadan, it will be easier for you, and that you will receive the rewards that we're talking about in class today. Our Prophet ﷺ mentioned that when your deeds are presented to your Lord, you want to be in a state of fasting. This is not just for the month of Sha'baan, Ramadan, but this is true on a daily and weekly basis too. Our Prophet ﷺ said the most significant thing about this month of Sha'baan is that it is the month in which the deeds are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine that your deeds would be presented to Allah and you'll be sleeping. Imagine that you have an interview and you sleep during the interview. The Prophet ﷺ said that our actions are presented to Allah on Monday and Thursday. So I love to be in a state of fasting when my deeds are presented to Allah. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the presentation and reporting of the deeds after Salatul Fajr and Salatul Asr. And that's one of the wisdoms that the scholars mention about the morning and evening remembrances being after Fajr and Asr. That is the time of the day when the angels report the deeds back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here we see the international meaning of something so simple as when angels are changing shifts. When your reports are going to Allah, imagine that they're saying, Allah, your servant is fasting. Your servant is fasting for you. Your servant is making dhikr. Your servant is reciting and reading Quran. This is the day, weekly, and annual reporting to Allah. And we want to found fasting when they occur. The Prophet ﷺ would fast Sha'baan to make up some of the missed voluntary fast throughout the year. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't make up the required obligatory, and I'm just letting study in again, so just bear with me. The Prophet ﷺ did not just make up the obligatory fasting. If he had an intention to fast a voluntary nafil fast and he didn't do it for some reason, he made it up. So a person of ihsan, excellence, does not just make up the obligatory deeds they miss, make up volunteer deeds too. If the Prophet ﷺ missed the night prayer, he would pray those rak'at between sunrise and dhuhr to make up what he missed in the night. And if you notice, particularly to my new Muslims, when you look at the prayer schedule, you'll see that prayer. So if you miss Fajr, then get up, wait till the sun has risen completely, because it's makruh to pray while the sun is rising. It's tasteful, it's light, and then praise Allah and make up for it. If you sleep tonight and you have had the intention to pray I.S.L.A.M, voluntary reward of deed, and you wake up at Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the entire reward of that qiyam, and that sleep would be a charity from Allah. So here in this case, you forget I.S.L.A, you wake up for Fajr, and not only do you get the reward of your intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the sleep that you have charity. The Prophet ﷺ also did this with itikaf. And for the new Muslims, itikaf is a period of staying in the masjid for a certain number of days, devoting oneself to worship and staying away from worldly affairs. Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah, mentioned 2 reasons why the Prophet ﷺ fasted so much in the month of Sha'baan. The first reason that is mentioned is to make up intended voluntary days. And the second one is to beautify, adorn, and glorify Ramadan. In the same way that the sunnah rak'ats are prayed before the fard of Fajr. The same way, it's like a test run. When you're running, you train for it. So you get up in the morning, you're groggy, maybe you're sleepy, you're yawning, you pray the 2 sunnahs, and then you pray the fards. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic narration that Allah looked at Allah's creation on the night of the 15th of Sha'baan, and Allah forgives the entirety of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. So we are very near, and forgive me, I meant to tell you how many days, and may Allah forgive me, but I think it's about 6. I had intended to have the calendar, but I arrived from my previous event late, and I wasn't able to take that to look at my calendar and make sure I was correct about that. But just know that on the 15th of Sha'baan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives his entire creation. And I'm going to give you the exceptions and how you can be exempt. And I'm going to pray that you do whatever you have to do to make sure that you will not be exempt from this great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah forgives everyone except a mushrik, and that is a atheist. It is someone who associates a partner with Allah, or a mushaheen, someone who has a heart consumed with enmity, someone who is holding a grudge. And in another narration about this same beautiful night from Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this beautiful hadith tells a murderer as well. And though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive a murderer, on the 15th of Sha'baan, if you don't have these 3 things in your heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you all of your sins. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Allah's entire creation amnesty on this night, with the exception of the polytheists, the holders of enmity, and the murderer. And I ask you, isn't there a call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of action to us? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will clean your record as you go into Ramadan. May Allah make us to be among those people. And I encourage you that if you're holding a grudge on anyone, to reach out to them today, at least if not today, tomorrow, and to make it right with them. There is no hadith that talks about specific ibadat, acts of worship for this night specifically. And I would like to warn you that there are numerous bid'ah. There are numerous innovations, and we know that any innovation in religion will be in hellfire, and the one who invented that will be in the hellfire. So avoid the bid'ah, wake up, pray, and fast, because that is established. We know that the Prophet ﷺ established fasting on this 15th of Sha'baan. And yes, if you get online, you will find people that will try to say that there are hadith about this that are weak and fabricated, and there are. But it's authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ fasted, and it's even reported by his family. And by the way, Wednesday is the 15th of Sha'baan. So let this Wednesday be so special for you, inshallah. The most beloved of the as-salat, the 5 daily prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Fajr. For example, the most beloved sunnah is the sunnah of Fajr, since others are sleeping. Like you use preparation of the sunnah of Fajr to honor Fajr, the preparation in the month of Sha'baan before Ramadan honors this beautiful month of Ramadan that is about to arrive in 18 days. There is an authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, do not precede Ramadan with 1 or 2 days of Sha'baan. So if the month of Ramadan, I was right the first time. If the month of Sha'baan is a 29-day or 30-day, you don't want to say, well, you know what, I'm going to just start 2 days before Ramadan just to get a head start. This is makruh. It's distasted by Allah. It's distasteful. So if you want to fast, now is the time to fast. Begin to fast now. Here again is illustration of how the Prophet ﷺ wanted to break between the sunnah and the fard. And this is his matter of fiqh as well. It would also take away the blessings of welcoming the Hilal, the crescent moon of Ramadan, and treating it as its own separate event. If you are trying to prepare yourself for Ramadan, prepare with the recitation of the Quran, with fasting and purifying your heart grudges. Nothing consumes and distracts the heart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like a grudge. The Prophet ﷺ said, every Monday and Thursday when the deeds are presented to Allah, Allah forgives the people except for 2 brothers or sisters that are quarreling. And Allah said, leave these 2 till they solve or remove their grudge. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, don't go get involved. Don't drag Allah to the fire. Don't make the spark or the ember of the fire a bonfire. Leave them or encourage them to work it out. Don't get involved in it. Is a grudge your ego, missing out on the forgiveness that comes on Monday and Thursday or the 15th of Sha'baan. These ahadith are authentic. And just like prepare your tongue with the recitation of the Quran, prepare your body with fasting, and prepare your soul with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You prepare your heart by removing that grudge and hatred that you have for a brother or sister, so you can clear the way for the Quran to consume your heart in Ramadan, and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be full focus of your thoughts and attention during Ramadan and beyond. There are your presents waiting for you. These are your presents that are waiting for you. And I apologize for some of the typical errors. That just shows you my imperfection and what a blessing for you to get to see how imperfect I am. And if you're not aware of its worth or value, no one else is going to claim it on your behalf. And if you know it's so significant, you will never leave it to waste. You will never let this Wednesday, the 15th of Sha'baan, come that you don't take it full advantage, and you will never let the grudge stop you from getting it, and you will never ever let Monday or Thursday go by that you're not remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remembering that this when my report card goes to my Lord. Often many people think they could just turn up for the show in Ramadan, take a seat and watch the game, see the team win and go home happy at the end. And it doesn't work that way. The message of Allah has taught us what to do so that we can find our hal, our states, in the best state, and so that we can be forgiven, our whole sins forgiven. And then going into Ramadan, like we're running a marathon, most victorious. Make it a real and sincere practical effort for Ramadan, which is only 18 days away. Keep a note of all your external and internal actions during the day while you're fasting. Keep a journal. Awake to the day instead of finding yourself in a stupor at the arrival of Ramadan. And so often I see people, particularly caffeine junkies, they cannot wait for iftar to satisfy their desire of a cup of coffee. It's like running to the coffee trough because my desires have to be met. Instead of raising your hands and saying, "Oh Allah, thank you for letting me fast. Oh Allah, let me remember that this is the month of abstinence. Oh Allah, let me be patient as I approach this food and remember those who don't have it." And then what do? They eat. Instead of remembering it's the month of abstinence, they eat like pigs, pardon me. And then they wonder why they are drunk and stupor when they go to Rawiyah, because they can hardly get up down because they have indulged instead of abstained. And by the way, if Allah gives me life and health, we will resume this Zoom every Sunday at 11 o'clock, just like our time. And I will begin with the help of Allah next Sunday on inner dimensions of fasting. And I would encourage you and any friend that you want to invite, any person that wants to come, I invite you to invite them so they can be prepared and their hearts can be ready to receive the greatest harvest that they've ever received. Not the Ramadan. Don't you want to profit whilst the doors of heaven are thrown, the doors of heaven are thrown wide open, the doors of hell are slammed shut, and the greatest distractors of all, devils, are firmly chained up. At this selected time, when the majority of our friends, family, and community are not paying attention to what could be gained, the environment is not conducive to stealing one's resolve and focusing on that which is good, where people are concentrating on enjoying themselves as much as possible before the hardships of Ramadan. During this time, let us strive to perfect ourselves. Let us strive to engage in tazkiyah, to purify our hearts of any kind of disease. The greatness of Sha'baan is a blessed opportunity to see whether we can make the mark. It's the mock exam before the impending final, the last practice in the mirror before the interview. Let this be our aim in the final days of Sha'baan. And so, if possible, I will see if on this medium I can open up to any questions, but I would like to ask you, we are still taking donations, and that can be made through Cash App at $I.S.L.A.M Inc. or Venmo. We would greatly appreciate if you could continue to support the work of Da'wah, and know that you will be blessed if you do that, inshallah. So let me see if any of you have questions. You're welcome to, I guess you type them, is that right? Any questions?
They were to unmute themselves to be able
And you would need to unmute yourself, I guess.
to stop the recording.
Pardon me?
You want to stop recording?
Okay,
Stop
I'm going
recording.
to stop recording. How do I do that? But I don't see any type questions. And so, oh, please type where to donate. Would you do that? I'm going to ask May soon if she doesn't mind to type the donation place here. Can we go down?
Imam Sykes, I have a question. This is Doug.
Okay, listening.
Is the routine of fasting for Sha'baan the same as for Ramadan?
Yes, it is, my beloved. You fast from dawn until sunset, and all of the same rules lie.
I'm not certain that everybody could hear me speak except for you. I don't know how this works, so I don't know if you need to repeat that, but thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much, brother. So Sean's question was the rules for, yes, they can hear you. So I thank you, Lisa, for letting me know that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions? I wanted to just share with you one question that has been asked me when I made this presentation in the past is, how do I forgive someone who is oppressing me? And so the Prophet ﷺ said that oppression is worse than murder. So what you want to do is simply forgive them in your heart, but you cannot expect to change other people's conditions. And so you simply do your very best to forgive them in your heart, perhaps reach out to them and say, please, I want to ask you to forgive me. Now, that doesn't mean, since they're oppressor, that you need to be bosom buddies with them. So part of taking care of your heart, your soul, guarding yourself, your soul, your nafs, is that you don't have to be intimate buddy with them. You can recognize that the relationship maybe is not constructive, but you don't want to shut the door. If you can help it, just shut the door. So it's very good, very humbling, very good for the ego. It's a great way to stone the Jamarat. It is a great way to humble yourself, to go and ask people to forgive you. Even if you think you're not wrong, you could just say, oh, I just want to say to you that it is my prayer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would remove any kind of dis-ease from our hearts and let it go at that. If you know in the history of the relationship has been painful, and you know the patterns of an oppressor, we don't go see murderers. God doesn't want us to go see murderers. And so remember that oppression is worse than murder. May Allah help us to be able to receive that great reward on Wednesday. Any other questions?